There we go. Start the recording. So you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm from the UK, and that's because Glean is from the UK. But we've been working in North America quite extensively now for a number of years, and our note-taking tool is used by over 700 institutions now in the US. So you might have came across this before. It's been predominantly used within more higher education, so colleges and universities, but we're finding more and more that people are looking for note-taking tools for slightly younger students as well. Now, I'm not quite sure what everyone's background is on here, but hopefully you will find this useful. My plan for this session is really just to show you the tool. I want you to get a bit of an understanding of what it is and how it works. Before I jump into it, there's just a couple of slides that I want to run through first, just to set the scene a little bit and help you to understand the platform and how the Glean system works. So we will get started. Now, the first thing to mention is that Glean is there to help you solve challenges associated with note-taking, because note-taking is a hard thing. It is a really hard thing to do for a lot of people. If you don't believe me, then try your best to take a good set of notes in this demonstration right now. You'll find it hard because there's a lot of issues that people have to deal with. First of all, maintaining attention for long periods of time is challenging for a lot of us. We're humans, we tend to have short attention spans. And I'm going to be throwing quite a bit of information at you. And you're going to have to try to process that information fast enough, because I'm going to keep going. I've only got a relatively short spot here, and I want to show you plenty about the software, and being able to process all of that is going to be challenging, especially if you've got challenges with short-term memory issues, for example. And this is before we even start considering any challenges that people may have as the result of a disability. If you've got hearing, physical, visual impairment, then any kind of note-taking in this type of scenario is going to be hard. Ultimately, I think the challenge is that for anybody, it's really hard to listen to somebody, look at the things they're showing you, and then write detailed notes at the same time. You know, it's just really, really hard to do this. So that is the challenge that we are trying to help people with. Now, Glean itself is designed so that it will work in any learning environment and with any the hardware you're using. So I'm using this on a Mac. You're going to see it on a Mac, but it doesn't matter if you're a Mac, Windows, Chromebook user, or you prefer to use an Android or iOS device. You can use Glean on all of them, because Glean is a web application. So you don't have to install anything. You just log in using an email address and a password, which means you can use it on literally any device. And it also works regardless of the context. So predominantly, people will be using this in a face-to-face classroom environment, but it also works when you're working online, like you are now. We're all on a Zoom call, and I know this is not unique. A lot of people are working and studying in a hybrid environment, so you can use Glean in both environments. And the last little point there, which is, I think, quite an important one, is a lot of people think that because Glean is a web application, you need to be online all of the time to use it. Well, you don't. And this is actually a really important thing, because as I'm sure you know, you're not always guaranteed to be able to have internet access when you're using this, and you just don't have to worry about that, because it is not powered by the internet. It's powered by your web browser, and those two are two different things. Unfortunately, I can't show you this working offline, because if I turn my internet off, I'm going to disappear. But please do try that yourself. And the reason it works this way is because when you're using Glean, all of your notes, all of your recordings are stored in two locations. They are stored locally on your computer, and this is what allows it to work entirely offline. But when you are online, it also syncs everything up to your own Glean Cloud storage account as well, which is powered by AWS and Google. The reason it does this is so that, for example, if I am using it on my mobile device, and then I want to access that file on my laptop, you don't have to transfer things across manually. It just syncs everything up via an account. So it's a pretty slick platform. And as you would expect, it's all got all of the types of data encryption and stuff you would expect with this type of platform. I'm not going to bore you with the details of that, but I can point you in the right direction if you need to know more about the data security aspect of things. Now, in the demo, these are the things that I want to go through and show you. I'm not going to try to show you everything that you can do with the tool. That's not the idea. My plan is to give you enough information so that you understand the fundamentals of how it works. And they are the things that we're going to cover. So I'll show you how it works on the laptop, how you can record sessions, how we can incorporate presentation slides, how you use the mobile app, and then a few specific features surrounding transcribing recordings and playing back events and writing your notes up in more detail afterwards. So they're all the things that we're going to try to cover. And the last little slide before we get into this is I'm very keen for people to try this themselves, because I think you can sit on a tech demo like this and have someone who is a product expert show you this. But I do think the software speaks for itself. So what I would like to be able to offer everyone on here, if you're doing a role which you need to be aware of tech like this, we can set you up with what we call our free evaluator account. This is a fully fledged account, fully featured, so that you can go and give this a go yourself. And there is no set time limit on that account either, because we want and we need people like yourself to be able to showcase this and when you're working with clients, etc. So I'll make sure I put the link into the chat after this so that you can do that if you want to. In terms of other people getting access, this is a 30-day free trial on the website. You can purchase subscriptions from 1 to 4 years. There's various different purchasing options. I don't really want to dwell on them, though. I want to show you the product. If you want to know more about how to access it afterwards, then just drop me an email and I can provide you the information. So that is me setting the scene a little bit. Now I just want to get in and actually show you the tool. So I'm going to get rid of my slides there. And we're going to start off by showing you this on my laptop. So like I said, I'm on a Mac at the moment. This would be the same on a Windows or a Chromebook device. And we're going to take a standard scenario of using Glean, which would be to use it to record class if you were a student. I'm going to probably refer to students most commonly in this demonstration, but actually it's equally applicable to people in the workplace as well. I mean, I use Glean myself to help me take notes from meetings and presentations, but I'll tend to refer to students and classes most often. So let's say I am getting ready to go into a class. I'll show you how I would use Glean to help. So I'm logged into my account to start off with. This is just my dashboard. This little thing that you see around my mouse, by the way, this has nothing to do with Glean. This is just something I put on for demos, so you can see where I'm moving the mouse a little bit easier. So what we're going to do to start off is go and click on this new event button. We call things events in Glean. And then it's always best to go and give your event a name. So we're all going to pretend to be students in a class about time travel. That is our scenario. Now, the main thing that we're going to be doing in Glean, first of all, is capturing all of the information. And usually that's going to be someone talking, a teacher talking. But it doesn't just have to be what someone's saying. It can also be what someone's presenting as well. So you can record audio in Glean, but you can also record and capture presentation slides. Now, this is not essential. If there are no slides where you're wanting to use Glean, then just ignore this part. But a lot of the people who are using this tool use it in conjunction with presentation slides, so I think I would include it as part of this demo. Apologies if you can hear dogs barking in the background, by the way. It is 5 p.m. here in the UK, and I think my eldest son and wife have just returned home from school, so they're barking because they can hear them outside. They'll be quiet in a second or two. I'll shut the door. I'll drown them out a little bit. Okay, so where was I? Yes, I'm going to show you how the slides works with Glean. Now, usually with slides, you can bring them into your event at any time. Ideally, you'd bring them in before class starts, but you can bring them in afterwards as well. I'll bring them in before in this little demo. So I just click on import slides. The slides can be in PDF or PowerPoint format, whichever you've got them in. I'm just going to choose this PDF, and then I'm going to pop the slides in here. So these are sat there ready for me to use as and when I need them. We'll come back to them in a minute or two, though. Because what happens is the class starts. And what you do is you start recording everything that's been said. So you go and click on this record button, and then you just choose where you need to record the audio from. So if you're in the same room as the person doing the talking, you're going to record using the microphone on your device. If you're on a Zoom call like you are now, and probably listening to me through a set of headphones, then you're going to want to choose the screen audio option instead. Basically, Glean gives you the ability to record what's going into your computer, but also what's coming out of it as well. And you can get both. So if you were having a one-to-one meeting with somebody or whatever, you could record your voice and their voice. So you just choose the option that's most appropriate. I am doing the talking here, and I'm in the same room as my computer, so we're going to just choose the mic option in this demo. So what happens is that Glean starts recording the audio, and it also starts to visualize this audio on screen as these gray blocks. Think of this as an audio timeline, and it breaks these blocks down based on pauses. So if I just take a really long pause, and then I start talking again, you can see how that audio visualization works. If you do find that distracting, by the way, you can turn it off. You can click on this icon here and just hide those audio bars while you're recording. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to bring them back because the default is to have them on. Now, the purpose of recording is really to free you up, because in this environment right now, where I'm effectively teaching you, I don't really want you doing a lot of note-taking. I want you to be listening to what I'm saying and looking at the things that I'm showing you on the screen and thinking about all of this information. But of course, you might want some notes from here. So this is where the audio comes in handy. Because if you were recording everything that I'm saying right now, you know that you can go back to it. So if I say something that you think is really important, or maybe that you don't understand, you know you can go back to the recording afterwards and play it back, re-listen to it, and then get an understanding of what was said. The problem is that if you just record the audio and do nothing else, all you end up with is one big long audio file, which is really challenging to go through and get any information from. Now, I'm probably going to be talking for maybe 30 to 40 minutes in total, I think, in this demo. I can't imagine you want to go back and listen to me talking for 30 or 40 minutes. You probably just want to go back to the things that were relevant. So what we give you with Glean is the ability to take notes alongside that audio recording in a really simple way. It allows you to bookmark the things or tag the things, if you will, that you want to go back and listen to later on. And there's a couple of simple ways of doing this. So first of all, you can just use text. So let's say I said something really important now and you think, right, I want to listen back to that later. You could just start typing a few keywords. So I type key point, it enters it down the bottom there, and then I press enter. So every time you add a note like this, it ends up on your notes feed. This middle section here is your notes feed. And you can see what it does. It timestamps every note you add and also visually puts a little bullet point here and a bullet point on your timeline. Now, all this is doing is linking that note to the audio you're recording. But what it allows you to do is to be really brief with your note taking, because you don't need to write the details of that key point out. You probably don't have time to write the details out. You just need a way of getting back to it nice and quickly afterwards. So that's what I like to think of with Glean. You are bookmarking what you're listening to so that you don't have a big long audio file to hunt through afterwards. And using it can be as simple as this. When you're starting off using Glean, you can keep it just like this if you want. Start recording and then just type and enter, type and enter, just like creating a bullet point list that is talking to an audio recording. There are a few other ways you can do this, though, because some people find any kind of text entry to be a challenge. And this is where these little icons down here can come in really handy. These are labels. These allow you to tag things without having to write anything. So this one here is your important label. So you hear something and you think, oh, that's important. Just click and hold for a second on that label. It will add it to your notes feed, timestamp it, and then visually link it to that moment in the timeline. And you can do that with one click. So it doesn't inhibit your ability to listen and look at what's being demonstrated. You can combine those two approaches if you want as well, though. So you can combine text and labels together. So let's say, for example, you're sitting in class and the teacher starts telling you about what's coming up on an exam or a test. So you might type exam and then decide, oh, this is something I need to review later on. So you maybe use this review label. alongside the text. So it's not a case of text or labels. You could use them both together if you want. It's entirely up to you. The one label in here that's a little different from the others is this one here. It's your heading label. Now you can use this with or without text as before. It's a little bit different to the other two because when you apply the heading label, surprise, surprise, it puts a heading in your notes. You can see that it puts it in here and also the heading in your audio. I tend to use headings in meetings when we're going through different agenda points. It's a great way to break up the information that I'm capturing into more manageable sections. And then obviously you can combine all of these approaches, so headings, labels, text, and you can pick this up in no time at all. What we do find though is that people who are using Glean in conjunction with presentation slides don't tend to use these headings very often, because as the slides progress in class, they provide a natural heading point for you to include in your notes. So that takes us on to how to use these slides, because I've incorporated them in here, I've imported them, but I haven't used any of them yet. And this is dead straightforward. So the idea would be if the class progressed and you move to the next slide, just like I did before in my initial presentation, you can post a slide to your notes. It posts it as a heading in here. It even pulls the title out of that slide. And then you can continue on with your note taking as earlier using text labels or your preferred method. You can also be selective about which slides you include and exclude, because you might not always want to include them all. You might not want to include them in the order that have been given them to you as well. That's why you have these forward and back arrows. So you can skip ahead and skip back through slides as needed and just post the ones that you need. And my favorite tool related to slides is I used to be a trainer, and I used to constantly see people writing the text out that appeared on the slide. So what we've done in Glean is we've given you the ability to strip out the text from a slide and put it into your notes without you having to type it. It's dead straightforward. You can just hover over one of these slides, click this icon, and it strips all the text out of here and puts it into here. Saves you a job of doing it. And they're all the key features. In fact, pretty much all of the features you would want to be able to use in Glean live in the moment. If you've seen this for the first time, it might seem complicated. It's not really. All you're doing is recording what's said and tagging it using a few different note types. You can honestly pick this up really quickly. That's one of the things people quite like about the software, is it's intuitive. You don't have to spend hours learning how it works. What I do want to move on to next, though, is just to show you what this looks like on a mobile device, because not everyone has a laptop or Chromebook with them when they want to take notes. So I'm just going to flip over to show you, hopefully this will work, my iPad. So, oh, I've clicked off it. That doesn't help. There we go. So this is literally just my iPad. This could be an iPhone. It could be an Android device. It doesn't matter. I just happen to have an iPad. So I just want to show you what this looks like on here. Now, I'm not going to give you the detailed explanation this time. I just want to show you the exact same features, but when you're using it on a tablet or an iPhone. So, new event, as we did before. I'm just going to call this one something different, mobile, and click on continue. We can import slides as we did before. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing, import my time travel or 101 slides. And then we'll start recording. The only thing that really looks a little different when you're doing it on a mobile device is you do not get those little gray audio bars that pop up. There's not really enough space to show it, especially if you're on a phone. So we just hide them automatically for you. And it will automatically change the orientation if you prefer. So I'm in portrait at the moment. If I flip this to the side, it will move this into landscape view. So you can hold your device however you want as well. And then all the same tools for tagging are in here. So you can add a text note, tap into the add text box, and then just add your text note as before. You can add your labels just by tapping on them. Combine the two approaches. So we'll add a text note and give it a label as well. What else did we do before? We added a heading. So you can do that. You can add your slides. Like I say, it's exactly the same as we did on the laptop a few minutes ago. The only thing that's really different when you're using the mobile device is you have an additional tool, which is the ability to take pictures. Because your mobile device will have a camera. You can see there's a little camera button just down near the bottom right. And this is quite handy if you don't have any slides available, or maybe you are needing to take a picture of something that's been drawn on a whiteboard or something like that, because you can just snap a picture of it instead. Now I'm just going to take a picture of a leaflet that's in front of me. Here we go. And then you can drop that image directly into your notes. And like with everything else in here, it's linked to the audio you're recording. So the point is that it does not matter if you're on your Windows, Chromebook, Mac, Android, iPhone, the same technique can be used. I'm wafting my iPad down there, it's moving. It's a simple technique and you can pick it up pretty quickly. Now I'm just going to put my iPad down now and minimize the screen. Now, everything that I've shown you so far, you could have done without an internet connection, and it would have saved all of your files locally on your device. As I've been online while we've been doing this, though, both of those events will have already synced up to my cloud account. And I mentioned earlier that this is beneficial. One of the reasons this is beneficial is we find that a lot of our users will record and tag things using the mobile device first, but when it comes back to listening to it later on, they want to listen back to it on a computer because it's easier to type notes up in a little bit more detail, when you've got a keyboard in front of you. That's just personal preference, actually. You can do it either way. But the reason I'm saying this is because if you want to work like that, because I've been online, everything's synced up. So if I just refresh my browser window, the mobile event that I recorded a minute or two ago should already be there, ready for me to download and use on my laptop. So you don't have to manually transfer files across or anything like that. You can just access things across any of your devices, which is nice and handy. So everything that I've been showing you so far is what you do with Glean live in the moment. And to be honest, the idea is to do as minimum as possible live in the moment. It's the whole point of Glean. We don't want using Glean to get in the way of your ability to listen in class. But what it does allow you to do is to capture everything and then give you some kind of structure so that when you go back to it later, you can efficiently and effectively go through it and convert that audio recording and brief notes into a fully fledged set of notes. And it's dead straightforward to do that as well. Now, what I'm going to do just for this part of the demo is bring in this file here because it's got a little bit more information in it, but it's what a file might look like once you've been through this process. So you've got lots of audio in here. It's maybe about 30, 40 minutes worth of audio, I think. We've got lots of annotations in here, lots of brief annotations, some text notes, some labels. What it is not is a complete set of notes yet. But now I have the tools to turn it into a set of notes myself. And there's a couple of different ways you can work with this. So the general idea at this point is to play the things back that you care about. You can play all of it back if you want to, and add new notes during the playback phase. But most people will just be playing back things that they tagged in the moment. So let's say this one here. You made an important note about an assignment. Now, of course, this would be something you'd want to listen back to. So what you would do in Glean is just hover over that entry and then go and click the play button above it. Now, I'll just click play and we'll let this play for a second or two.
For your first assignment on this course, you'll be asked to analyse the extent to which sci-fi movies obey the scientific rules of time travel. There'll be more information on that at the end of today's lecture.
Now, because you're doing this after the event, you can listen back to this as many times as you need. If you go and click up here, you'll notice you can change the playback speed, so you can speed it up, slow it down, and we've got various filters in here to improve the clarity of the audio. But the idea would be is that you'd now go into here and say, right, what was that assignment? Now I've got my own time to do this and I'm not under the time pressure of a live class. I can write this up. So that would be, I can't even remember what was said there. Do sci-fi movies obey the scientific? Right, you get the idea. I'm not going to write all of that out. And then you go through and you edit all of your notes. You don't have to edit all of them, of course. You can be selective with this. There is another way you can do this, though, because you may have noticed that I just played the audio back there. And for a lot of people, that's what they want. They just want to listen back, write the notes up. But you might have noticed that if you look up here, you have the option of an audio view, which is the default view, but also a transcript as well. And that's because we enable you to transcribe your recorded audio afterwards. And you can just toggle between the two, whichever you prefer to use. So if I just toggle to the transcript, it will show you the transcript. And all of these are still linked. You don't lose the links in the transcript view. So let's go and say we wanted to play something else back. I'm going to scroll down and find something that I'm interested in, which is this. So ISS, which is the International Space Station. So if you wanted to play this back in the transcript view, it'll look a bit like this. I'll just hit play again and let it play for a few seconds so you can see what it looks like.
The International Space Station orbits the Earth at over 17,000 miles an hour, and so time passes slower for the astronauts on board than for those of us back on Earth.
So it still plays the audio back. The idea is still for you to listen, but it will also have that transcript. And as you can see, it has sentence and word highlighting, so it helps you stay online of the text while you're listening back. And it's entirely up to you which version you use. I guess it depends why you might be using the transcript. If it's an access issue, you might find the transcript useful while you're listening back. I don't particularly use the transcript for that purpose, but I still do find it useful to have it. Because one of the other things that you can do when you've got the transcript is it can speed up the note-taking process. Now, the important thing to say from the start is that having a transcript does not negate the need to have a curated set of notes, because the two things are completely different. A transcript of an hour-long class is thousands of words. It is not a set of notes. But you can use the transcript to help you write the notes up. So, for example, let's say you'd come to this section and you thought, you know what, I just want to grab what this person said and reword it a little bit, put it in my own words. Well, what you can do with Glean is highlight the section of the transcript you want to use, and then just post it to your notes. Similar to how we stripped the text out of the slides a few minutes ago. And then when it's in here, you can do what you want. This is fully editable. You can add to this, you can reword it, however you need to work with that note. So you can use the transcript in that context. Another couple of things to mention to you. These are not essential functions, but I personally find my notes harder to work with when it's just loads of text with a few slides. I like to have my notes a little bit more interesting than that. So I want to show you a couple of the integrations we've got with Glean that people find useful. So we're going to stick on the subject of the ISS. Let's say you were now interested in this and you were wanting to expand some notes out about this. So the first thing we've got in here is the ability to add subnotes. So the way you do that is by clicking this little plus icon, and it allows you to add a note underneath here. Now, this could be a basic text note, but I'm not going to show you that. I want to show you what these buttons are here, in particular these two. Now, this middle one here is what we call our definition card. Now, the definition card, in its simplest form, is a direct link to Wikipedia. So if you're not quite sure what something is, a lot of people go to Wikipedia to find out an answer. So we thought, why don't we just integrate that with here? So you could go in here and say, right, I don't know what the ISS is. I need some more info on this. So let's just type ISS in my definition tool, and then Glean will go away, grab a snippet of that article from that website, and also provide you a link to that website should you want to go and explore it a little bit further. So that's one integration we've got. We have another one, though, which I use quite frequently as well. So we're going to do the same thing as we did before. Click the plus icon. Time to use this button. And I do this all of the time because I think I mentioned before, I find just text upon text a little bit dull. So I use images in my notes a lot to break things up. Also, just because I find it easier to recall information when I've got some imagery to work with as well. So what we have in Glean, if we click on this button, two things. the ability to import an image that you already have on your device, but most frequently used is the ability to search for an image directly within Glean as well. So if I want a picture of the International Space Station, I can just type ISS. Glean will then go and return lots of different results. You can search more if you want to, but if you just want to grab one of these pictures and use it, just click on it. Glean's going to go and grab that image and just drop it straight into the notes for you. These are not essential functions, but I do think they're quite useful to know that notes don't just have to be words and presentation slides. And that's how you write your notes up. And you get to the point where you've converted your basic audio recording into a complete set of notes that might look a little bit like this here. So this is kind of your end goal, to flesh out all of your notes and have a really detailed set in here. And it's easier than you think to get to this point. Certainly easier than just relying on opening up a blank Word document and trying to do it. Now, the last thing to show you is that when you come back to revisit your notes, maybe you revise, whatever it might be, what we find is that for a lot of people, the audio has served its purpose. People use the audio in the transcript to write their notes up. But once they've got the notes, they don't need that anymore. So what you can do in Glean, if you're just wanting to review notes, we've got a button in here that allows you to switch to a reading view. It just displays these notes in a more linear fashion. And you can scroll through them. If you want to get this information out of Glean, though, you can as well. You can either print this to, if you've got a printer, I've got a printer which hasn't had ink for about 3 years, or maybe you want to print this as a PDF so you can share it with somebody. You could do that. Or if you just want to maybe put it into a Google Doc or OneNote or Microsoft Word or anywhere else, then all you need to do is one click, copies everything to your clipboard, and then once it's on your clipboard, you can paste it wherever you want. So I can go into a blank Google Doc, and then Command and V is paste on my Mac, and it should paste all of my notes into here. You don't have to do any of that, by the way. You can keep them entirely in Glean. You're not going to run out of storage space with Glean. But a lot of people like to get their notes out and put them into different programs as well. And that is Glean in a nutshell in about 30 minutes, which was my plan. There is other things you can do with it, but I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information, especially if you've never seen this before. Hopefully, though, that gives you enough to understand how it works, how it can be beneficial. And if you want to try it for yourself, like I said, I'm going to drop a link into the chat window where you can request access to this and give it a go. Because I'm sure you all attend meetings, or you could put this to the test at some point. I need to go and find that link, though, because I'm not entirely sure where it is, but I'm going to go and find it now. Right, it is going to be this link here. It's a little form. Basically, you can request an account. Don't worry about remembering what that link is. I'm literally going to copy and paste this into the chat window. Message this to everyone. And also, by the way, I will pop in my email address should you have any questions, although I think some questions have been asked during this, so I think now is probably a good time to maybe answer some of them. Well, I've been talking too much today. Right. Should I just, Naomi, should I scroll to the top of here? Do you want to field any questions, or should I just have a little look through and see if I can answer them?
I could field the questions for you. One question is, were some colleges training their students on how to use Glean? And if people feel like turning on their mics and asking the questions live, please feel free to do that also.
Yeah, I forgot that we want a Zoom meeting here, so you can unmute yourself and just ask questions. It might be easier. I can see there's been a question there already about adding slides. I don't know if did somebody already answer that? How do you
yes, someone did. did answer that. There was about invite. Feel free to demo it again.
Yeah, so very quickly, because
Demo that again?
oh, sorry.
Can you demo the slide again?
Yeah, no problem. So I'll just go into a new event again and import some slides. I'll just import the same ones as before. There we go. So once your recording started, if you want to post the next slide in the deck, so just showing you the initial slide, you would just go and click on this post next slide button. You can actually do it with a keyboard shortcut as well. There's keyboard shortcuts for pretty much everything in here. It's Control and Enter. So that will post the next slide into your notes and then show you it. If you don't want to post the next slide because maybe the teacher skips ahead, that's where you've got to use the forward and back arrows. So you can just move to the actual slide that you want to use and then post that specific slide instead. And you can go forwards and backwards as much as you need. Hopefully that answers that question. There was a question there about, well, what are some ways colleges are training their students in how to use Glean? It's a very good question, actually, because we work with so many colleges and universities that I couldn't possibly answer how all of them are doing it. We try to help with this, I guess, is the first thing to say. If you've got a Glean account, for example, if you go and click on this question mark, we've got a lot of help docs that are already built into the tool. So if you have a question and you can't quite know how to do things, there's a lot of information in here. So we've got a guided tour. So if you're a first-time user, this will take you through some of the basics in this. This link to this skills portal is basically a series of tutorial videos. We're actually updating these very soon. I've just been recording a lot of new ones here, but they are bite-sized tutorials for how to do a lot of the main functionality. And then also just basic help docs within the software itself. So, for example, if I go into help docs here, it brings up a little widget within the software itself. And then maybe you had a question about adding slides, which is what we had before. So you can go and search for what you're looking for. And then there we go. When I showed you how to post a text on a slide, this will explain how to do it. And I think there's a lot of images as well as text in here to make it a little bit more accessible. So we've got lots of features within the software that actually help with the training side of things. We also, I believe, for some of the universities, host student-facing webinars. So I think there's a link in here. Yeah, there's a link to a live tutorial. So we host regular webinars where students just jump on board and we'll show them how it works as well.
Is there anywhere that has like the step-by-step directions of what you just went over?
Step-by-step of what I just went over. So I have not text-based, I wouldn't say, but what I've just done there, I have a video version of this, which you can have. I can share that with you, which you can go through the entire thing again if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was looking, I took notes. I was looking to see if there was anything that you had written out.
Oh, that I've written out personally. Not well, kind of. When I'm doing these sessions, I kind of have a plan of things to go through, but I've been doing them for so long now that I don't really need to have a written guide anymore, to be honest. So yeah, not something I could really share with you step by step of what I've went through. I'm just trying to have a scroll through here. Were any more? I don't think there was any more text questions that were written during the meeting. So if anyone does have any more questions, I think you'll either have to type them in or unmute yourself and just ask. It's fine if you don't have any questions, by the way. I know sometimes you need to get your hands on this technology and use it before you can think of any other questions. Any pushback from faculty being recorded? Yes, is the answer to that. Pushback, some are not keen on being recorded, but generally, if a student is using this because of a disability-related reason, then their legal rights to have accommodations tend to trump any displeasure that a faculty member might have. But I won't lie, there is pushback. But it hasn't stopped us from having lots and lots of people using this. So it's usually overcome. I think there tends to be more pushback the younger the student is, to be honest. Within colleges, universities, it doesn't tend to be that much of an issue. When you start going down into schools, I mean, I don't think the tool's particularly appropriate unless you have to take notes. So maybe at high school level, it might be appropriate, but you get more pushback at that level just because you're recording younger people. Generally, most people have policies in place, though, which says, look, if you want to record, people are going to do it under the table on a mobile phone if they want to. So better to control the process and make sure there's policies in place where if you're going to record, it's only to be used for your own personal, usage to help you write notes up. One of the things that we've actually made sure in Glean is that you can't export the audio from here. Because that was one of the main concerns from faculty. They thought that someone was going to record a class, download the audio and upload it to YouTube or something like that. You can't do that. You can export your own text notes out of here, but you can't export the audio that's enclosed within Glean itself.
Do you find colleges making this available for all students, not just students with disabilities?
We're finding that some have a desire to do that because I think tools like this, many tools in the assistive technology space are really great for learning and productivity. It just so happens that the funding is there for disabled students and they're the ones who tend to get it first and foremost. We're exploring more site-wide usage with several places. There's a few pilots we've got going on at the moment. It's just more challenging because you've got to get buy-in from multiple different departments and it's a longer process. I think people would love this if it was available to everyone. But of course, you've got to buy it as well. As soon as it's more challenging, let's say, to do it on a site-wide. But there is, we've got pilots in place for it. At the moment, it tends to be the disability students departments who are getting this. Or it's getting bought by individuals and funded through various programs that you guys have in the US. I am not an expert on all of the various different funding that's available. I'm just trying to get my head around it a little bit.
Is this screen reader friendly?
Yes. So we do test it with various screen readers. If I look actually, screen. I'm trying to remember what our help website is. Help Center. There we go. I should really know this. There's an article on here on screen readers. There we go. How to support screen reader users. Yeah. So I can't remember off the top of my head which ones we tested with, but yeah, these are the ones. NVDA, JAWS, Apple's inbuilt voice windows, narrator tools. So yeah, it's tested with the main ones that get used.
When you do your testing, do you use actual people who are using screen readers, or is it someone visual?
We teamed up with there's an organization in the UK called AbilityNet, which do a lot of our work with us to do a lot of the testing. And they will tend to use individuals with the various disabilities that would use screen readers to help test with it. So it's not just our own internal engineers who do this.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
Well, it's the space that we work in. So we do that quite extensively. There's been another couple of questions posted in the chat. Can this be integrated in a platform like Canvas? I'm not an expert in Canvas, so I'm not entirely sure what you mean by integration. I know a lot of people use Glean alongside various LMS systems. So if you were wanting to use Glean to take notes from a lecture recording, for example, a pre-existing one, you can do that. I'm not quite sure what integration means from your context, though. Feel free to elaborate in the chat if you will. Yeah, course management system. Yeah, so again, how would you expect it to be integrated, I guess? because it depends what content is on that course management system. If it's videos, for example, and you want to take notes for them, yes, you can use Glean to take notes from videos. You asked another question. Do you have a feature that can turn the notes into flashcards? So, no is the answer. However, we are working on how to describe this, a kind of like a quizzing tool within Glean, which I guess is a similar type of purpose to flashcards. It's not ready yet, but the idea is that you're going to be able to record, transcribe your audio, and then use some AI type technology to generate a series of questions that you might want to ask yourself about the content, and then you can see the answers. So it can pretty much work like a flashcard. I can't show you it because it's literally in active development at the moment. It's one of the things we're trying to figure out at the moment, is how to sensibly utilize AI within the tool. Because what we don't want to do is to remove the note-taking from the process. Because we're firm believers that actually a lot of the learning happens during the process of the user creating their notes. And we don't really want to get to the stage where an AI just does all this for you and then completely forgoes the learning process that we believe in. But it's an active conversation. And as I say, one of those is around how to use questions and flashcards. Sorry, I've waffled on a little bit there, but I think it's probably an important area of conversation for a lot of ed tech companies, is how to utilize AI at the moment. I think it's pretty good as it is, personally. I use it all the time.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Feel free to turn on your mics. This has been wonderful, Lee.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder, in case we don't get any more questions, I'm going to put another couple of links in here, in case you missed them before. Oh, I went on the wrong link. Let me find it again. Too many things open. And what was I looking for? All right, yes. The link to request your evaluator account, which is the free account, it's what we call it. And I'm also going to put a second link in here. This is a kind of a hub for all of the information you might want to go and find out about Glean afterwards. So there's a little explainer video on here. I appreciate sometimes you don't get the opportunity to sit and demo this for 30, 45 minutes or however long we've been doing it. So we've got a nice little 3-minute explainer video here if you wanted to point anyone in the direction of looking at this. And there are links on here to guides for how you can recommend this and different webinars and recordings and stuff like that. So they're the 2 links that we've got. I've just posted in there if you want to find out more. And we have lots of user stories as well, because we've got lots of people using this. Right. Well, I guess if we do not have any more questions coming through, then yeah. I don't know if you've got any more to discuss after this in the meeting, or whether this is it, but yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.